Okay, we're all here. Why don't we, there's a lot of big announcements, some good, some very sad. This is Elizabeth Prio, by the way, the chair. And I'll start with the sad. Jennifer DeRosa is going to have to, this is going to have to be her last meeting. Oh, and Jennifer's been on the committee for a long time, has amazing insights, and it's sad, but we totally understand why you have to resign. Makes perfect sense. So I wish I had a cake or a donut or something. Don't.
I'll be right. Let me bring a chair.
I knew the minute I started.
Well, hopefully, the legislator gets some common sense. I know Delegate Bennett Parker rescinded that legislation to try to make these meetings more accessible. So
yeah,
hopefully that changes within the next year. Have you back if you're willing.
Yeah.
What's in the legislation?
Yeah, so I think it would allow for advisory commissions like us to participate fully remote, but boards such as like the county board and planning commission, they would still have to be in person.
Yeah. Would you like me to give up my chair?
Oh, no, it's fine. Are you guys fine?
Yes.
Are you facing this one?
We have an empty chair right here at the end.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. So he's our public comment.
Okay, great. Good. Well, am I still allowed to say goodbye, Hannah?
Oh, yeah. Sure.
Okay.
It's your meeting.
Okay. Hi, my name's Elizabeth. I'm the chair, and we have just begun by having to say goodbye to one of our longest, happiest trustee members here, Jennifer, who's sitting next to you.
Nice to meet you.
So it's going to be sad, but you promise you'll come and give input a lot.
I will. And I just wanted to take the moment to say thank you very much for the opportunity Jack has given me to serve on as a part of the commission and a part of the county board. I have definitely learned so much from working with everybody, some older, some longer members, some newer members, and I'm sorry I won't be able to get to know the new members for long, but definitely I'll keep in touch, and if ever there's public comment, I will definitely reach out to Liz and hopefully hop on a call.
Terrific. And Nicolette is joining us in person, and Nicolette is a new member. So did you want to say anything about yourself, or would you like to be quiet and go along?
I am just excited to be here. Excited to meet all of you guys and just get to work.
All right.
Should we go around and give introductions?
Yes, okay. Okay. So Duncan, so that you know, here, we'll start with you, Duncan, and then we'll go, well, no, that's not fair. We'll make sure you know who's in the room. So we have Jennifer and Alexa. And Nicolette, and okay, we'll just keep going around.
Bryant.
And
Leroy.
And Leroy is our public comment.
Public comment.
So I think that's the next thing on our agenda, right?
Yes, Madam Chair. Leroy has the floor for public comment.
Okay, I open the floor for public comment.
I'll try to be brief here, but I've been trying to see what I would be as an improvement in the crosswalk system. And I went through several hoops, and then thanks to Vision Zero, Nate introduced me to your organization.
Great.
And he sent me to 2 links where you had met with county people trying to get audible signals that indicated what streets and how much time you had. And that was back in January of 2021. And the thing that struck me is one of the county people there was Andrew Hayes. And he's the person I spoke to on the phone. My impression was nobody was giving the county guidance on these intersections. Nobody with impaired vision, and they were stumbling forward with something that was not good, switching from
Wow,
audible to
that's
the
disappointing.
pulse.
That
And
is
so
disappointing.
he didn't tell me that you guys had been already made these suggestions to him. And in his email, he also had said that one of the reasons he said they were going that way is because the law required them to. And he sent me a copy of the legislation. And on the second page, the bottom of the second page, it says, well, if you can do something better than these pulses, then do it. And so I sent him a reply after he sent that, and I said, well, it certainly seems like that it's an improvement. I mean, rat-a-tat-tat, and walk sign is on. How can you say the rat-a-tat-tat is better than the walk sign?
And you can't hear it once you step two inches away from the box. You can't hear it.
And so anyway, my expectation was going to be to speak to someone who was interested. And I saw you made this big effort and you didn't get anywhere. So.
Well, I'm really glad that you brought this comment and I wish Doris was here. Doris is also vision impaired and
Has been saying exactly what you just said over and over.
For this. And when we did have them come, Courtney arranged for the individual to come. And we asked the individual who came, I can't remember the name, who it was.
I think it was Andrew.
Andrew? Okay.
There was a Joshua. He did all the.
Okay.
I heard Andrew.
And then, so we clearly said to Andrew, and Doris Ray is the individual I'm talking about, she was familiar with the different codes that you can follow related to the signaling. And I think she said, is this the access board code you're using? And Andrew I'm not sure if it was Andrew or whomever, but let's say it was Andrew, said, no, we are using this other code. And Doris said, well, you should be using the access board code. And Doris was not even familiar with the code that they were using. And so I believe a letter was written. If it was probably penned by Doris. I'm not sure. I don't know that it came from our board commission, but we definitely made it known that the code that Arlington was using was a code that we were not familiar with, that we knew of the access board code, which didn't require this. And if I recall correctly, what we were told by Andrew was that, and what's so sad is that they had a really good system with countdown. It was loud, it was good. And so they must have spent money to actually change it to this strange system. But what we were told was that people had, hi, this is that, come on in.
I'm trying.
Come on in, I'll move away.
I can't fit behind you, so you don't move.
Okay,
You can
don't
park
move or
right-
do.
What?
you can park right over there.
Duncan, I'm sorry, I stopped because Suzette just joined us. Thank you for braving the cold to be
I'm
here.
gonna cross, so I really,
Okay, I'm good.
okay.
All
Okay,
right,
You're gonna come right here around it this way.
there's no, so I guess I sit here. I don't-
so Suzette, if you don't recognize this fellow, it's because he is offering comment on an excellent issue. And we we have Duncan on the computer there. And we have our newest member, Nicolette, joining us for the first time. Nicolette, this is Suzette. Okay. Okay, so what was raised was that just like Doris did, I don't know if you were on the committee at that time, that the new system, they moved from a really nice signaling system, which was a countdown that you could hear, to these chirps that mean nothing to anybody, and you can't hear them after you've moved like 2 steps. And so you had mentioned that you heard from the county that nobody had raised a concern. and yet you went to the Disability Advisory Commission notes and saw that we in fact had raised a concern. I didn't know that they are still saying, I'm just flabbergasted that they said they didn't hear. And I was explaining that I think what they told us, and Alexa, let's see if you remember this, and you as well, that somebody had complained that the signal, the countdown was too loud. So it was interfering with individuals' ability to hear the cross traffic. That's what I thought I heard.
I remember something like that. Yeah, I can't say for certain exactly, but
Yeah.
but it was something that made me go, well, hey, as a person who's both sighted and hearing, that might annoy me. But if somebody else needs this, I can stand being irritated at a crosswalk
Right.
for a few seconds while everybody else,
Right.
has full access to the, to the crosswalk. The other thing is, I'm sorry, I don't recall your name, sir. Leroy, you were saying that they showed you a copy of the legislation that they were using?
Yeah, it was an attached document, PDF.
Is it possible that you
Yeah,
can share that with us? I'd like to see it, especially the part where you're saying that it says, that other things can supersede it, or, just to see exactly how that's worded, because I do find this strange. We did, it was something that we did comment on, and it was something where, Doris expressed over and over very much that she felt the same way you do. It's not, these little chirps don't make it clear where I am, where I'm going, what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I'm not, Courtney, for the process of requesting staff communications regarding this issue, do we have to write a formal FOIA request to request all the communications regarding this?
Would it be communication specifically for DAC?
DAC, and also if there was a citizen complaint regarding the noise levels.
Regarding the noise level.
Yeah.
That's a great question. Let me research to see if I can request it.
Yeah.
I think my assumption is behalf of the commission, I should be able to, but let me just check.
Okay.
So this is communication related to a complaint that was received regarding the volume.
Yeah, for the audible.
And I don't know whether Doris made a specific request, but I remember when Andrew was here, I'm just assuming it was Andrew because I don't remember the name. She said, "What statute are you following?" They did not provide the statute.
Right, they didn't give it to us.
Yeah, and I just remember that it was very clear that Doris said, I have never heard of that statute. The get that everybody follows is the access board statute. And so it would be really helpful also to get a copy of the statute that they reference and that you're mentioning, Leroy, because if there is that paragraph, that's a slam dunk.
Yeah.
Yeah, when I said, if I'm not misinterpreting this, this says it says the pulsating tone is a minimum, and it says in that paragraph, if you can do better, go for it. And then he replied with this will require an engineering study. So it's like,
And did staff say they were forward with the study?
no.
Well,
It's like, okay, put it blindfold engineer, take him to an intersection and let him work his way across.
Well, and also, the way to get we are actually supposed to speak for people with disabilities in the county. So if they got one complaint from one individual, then the response you would think would be to go to the Disability Advisory Commission and ask for further input. I don't think a study needs to be done if we already have a body that can speak to it.
Oh, he was, that made no sense. It was only a matter of, get out of here, go on. That's-
Yeah,
Right, that's
so-
what it sounds like, yeah, that he was blowing you off.
Well, I think internally, the staff, in order to move forward with a budget request from the county board, they usually include a study, because the county board wants to know,
Yeah,
is this a legitimate need?
but I think, I mean, I agree. I think is to get, did somebody complain? That's what we were told.
Yeah,
But as far as a budget request,
Mhm.
if they actually had appropriate signals, they then spent their budget to
Mhm.
make it inappropriate. So I have no sympathy, and I don't think we should have any sympathy for them to have to spend money to correct it.
Right.
Let's say that expenditure,
Mhm.
given what the infrastructure that there is, would be very minor.
Yeah.
Because all you're doing is flicking a couple of switches and, they can adjust everything, the countdown,
Mhm.
the sound notification. So it's very minor to think of budget. But the peculiar thing is they were getting your input and they had no interest in taking it, evaluating it, saying, well, some people complained about. In fact, as I recall, when they mentioned about the problem with counting down traffic, Josh was saying, well, we heard that people who are visually impaired find that noise of the countdown blocks out cross-traffic noise, and that's a real problem.
Yeah, I
That's-
remember him saying that. I
Yeah,
remember him saying that, and I remember us going, where are you getting this? How
Right.
many visually impaired said that?
Yeah.
If the federal government or state government or whoever this supposedly is changed their recommendations based on a bunch of blind people saying the chirps are easier for us to understand than the countdowns, there should be a record somewhere of,
Right.
Mhm.
was this 100 people? Was this 1,000 people? Was this 3 people? Was
Right.
this one guy's cousin?
Yeah. And I just am so glad, Leroy, that you raised it, because what it tells us is that the county completely forgot or is unaware or chose not to remember our comments. And it also makes me wonder, do we have to put in writing everything that we comment on? Or is the fact that people come and visit us and take information sufficient? Because I don't know, maybe we didn't put it in writing.
Yeah, I'm getting the impression that we should send lots of letters.
Yeah, it's telling me that we have to document everything.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's how, from what I've seen, that's how most of the commissions operate.
Yeah.
And, document. But yeah, I would love to get more information regarding, any decisions made to adjust the sounds.
Yeah,
Staff communication, both with the citizens and internal communication related to that. And if they want to come and present it to us and not, just give us the documents, we would greatly appreciate that, because this is, given the county's Vision Zero commitment, it seems like this would be a top priority for both the county board
yeah,
and Department of Transportation Services. I think that's the one that oversees. Yeah,
right.
yeah.
So,
that. Yeah.
when we do, we will write a letter, either Brian or myself. So when we do you mind, we won't say your name, but do you mind if we say, we received consumer input that, that the county was not aware of the comments that we'd made? Or, and we don't have to say that, but to me, that's very significant, that we made a comment and it didn't get filtered down.
you had a January meeting, you discussed this quite well. And the same Joshua and Andrew were there. And then you had a February meeting. In the follow-up meeting, wasn't so much that Joshua and Andrew came back saying, okay, we've received your input. These are the adjustments we're making. Instead, Joshua cited 4 reasons why they're sticking with the system that they have.
Yep,
It-
yep,
They were
yes,
so
Yeah.
sparse, such as one was, well, we have people from the international community visiting the area and they may not understand English, so
The
they
church
won't
makes no
understand.
sense.
Right,
But they
right.
won't understand walk or walk
Yeah.
signs across Glebe Road. They're not gonna know the roads.
Yeah,
It's like,
yeah.
I suspect they would know the road because they're
Yeah.
gonna have to figure out how to go from A to B and they're not, but,
Okay.
without some knowledge. But
And,
anyway,
yeah.
those flimsy
Excellent public
excuses.
input.
And I would assume walk would be a basic.
Right, and counting down from 15 to 0 or whatever,
Mhm.
if you don't know English, that's as meaningful as chirp, chirp, chirp. If you do know English, it's more meaningful than chirp.
Yeah.
So I don't understand that.
Yeah.
I remember that.
Yeah.
I remember them coming back and just like, well, the law changed.
Yeah,
And I remember the way that, again, I
Mhm.
can't remember every detail, but the
Yeah.
way they presented it, I remember being very sort of,
Mhm.
oh, get with the times, Doris, you're just weird.
yeah.
And the thing is,
Mhm.
Well, we,
not to say anything against Doris is one person with very strong opinions, and I remember thinking, I'm pretty sure Doris is right here, but I don't have the opinion. I have the opinion of one blind person, not 7. So
exactly.
what if the other 6 agree with them? So I'm
Yeah.
glad you
I'm
stopped
very glad
by
you stopped by.
because that clarifies
Mhm.
that not just that what she was saying seemed logical to me, but that other people are having the same experience.
Yeah, and
So
did,
maybe we can just leave it at, when we write a letter, we say, not only did we
Mhm.
mention this, but we had consumer comment that made us want to revisit.
yeah,
Why we are not using the access board standard or whatever.
yeah,
If you wouldn't mind, we won't say your name.
Yeah, it's not a problem. I'm on the board of the Potomac chapter of the National Federation of the Blind.
Uh-huh.
And so we've talked about this. And I don't know if it helps to get, a wider feedback from more people who are visually impaired, see if anybody,
yeah.
I get a larger number of voices involved, if that would be helpful to you or.
You can go, yeah.
I definitely think it might.
Yeah.
Definitely think, if we send a letter and we include, hey,
Mhm.
such and such number of people from this NFB chapter all said the same thing.
Yeah,
Why, why did you choose this standard?
So who would you, this is the other thing that came to mind. Who's actually making the decision here? So you send a letter to someone, but if they're saying, hey, look, I don't make the decisions, I just address your comments.
yeah.
Well, maybe we could ask Andrew, when
Mhm.
she asked for the public, who made the initial decision that we should address our letter to.
So, yeah, but typically the commission, probably you advise the board, so it may this probably be to go to the board.
To the board.
To send a letter to the board.
Okay, so
Yeah.
we'll send a
One of the
letter to the board
things-
with a CC to the
Mhm.
pedestrian and transportation advisory committee
yeah,
and
and-
0.
And before that, maybe reaching out to the chairs of those, to see, because I feel like sometimes like people will discuss the issues separately and it doesn't come together. But yeah, I think I agree. Maybe you're right.
Yeah, my husband is on the pedestrian advisory committee. It's not a commission,
Mhm.
but he knows. I often tell him what we complain about, and he knows I hate these. He's furious about it,
Yeah.
and I think he said that it was brought up by someone at the pedestrian advisory committee. It very well may have been Doris, though. So
Oh.
I will ask him because he has a good memory.
Yeah, but for your organization particularly, a joint letter to our commission. So if we go to the county board, we can attach it to our letter and saying this is a
Right.
widespread issue of concern for, Arlingtonians.
Yeah, Great.
Because we do represent 14,000 Arlingtonians who identify with a disability. So it's not, our ask are not for a small amount, and that shouldn't matter how many people need the service. Even if it's needed for one person, preventing that death is the imperative of this county.
You would think.
Yep. So
Yeah, that's where that Nathan Gibbs from Vision Zero.
Mhm.
That's where he was really helpful.
Yeah.
And he seemed quite enthusiastic to see this issue move forward. And Doris, in fact, during the meeting, she mentioned about 2 people had died in her area. 2 visually impaired people had died. Do you remember that? When she brought that up?
Yeah, I remember her
because of
bringing
the-
something like that up. I don't remember the details, but I remember her bringing up
And
that.
this is in Arlington?
No, she's in Fairfax, I think.
Yeah, she lives like right across the Fairfax.
Yeah,
Okay.
but what was helpful is that you said that it's in both the January and the February minutes. So when we write this, we can reference that.
2021 minutes. I mean, in the,
And
that
the
video
recording.
clip was recorded.
I saw the
20
meetings were recorded, so post on.
Pardon me?
Yeah, that's where I'll go.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I forwarded that email exchange that I had with Andrew to you, right?
And I forwarded.
Mhm.
Okay, do we have any else that you want to ask us? while you're
I'm
here?
sorry, I didn't mean to take this.
Oh, no, that is what we're here for. I mean, we're thrilled to have public comment. We don't get enough of it. So continue on. Tell us more about your issues.
Well, that's been an issue. I pushed on this for a while, went to the county, and they set me up with people who really are involved in making repairs. And I called that same, I talked to somebody in the county, talking to different people, and the Nate from Vision Zero. And I went forward with filing another one of those comments to the county about something needing to be taken care of. And the county says they get back to you within a certain amount of time, a limited amount of time. And I've not heard back on that request. And this was something Nate told me to do so that they can get a tracking of what's going on with this case. So I should check with
Yeah.
him again, tell him I met with you guys, tell him that that the county hasn't gotten back to me, and see what he suggests too for moving forward. And I also get a hold of the NFB people and see from the Potomac chapter and see what they have to say, what kind of comments they can forward.
Well, great. And do you have, do you know how to reach Courtney? I guess you do, because you be sure to
I
do
do.
public comment. So that's where it should all go.
Okay.
Yeah.
Bless you.
Yeah. I'm not surprised by the response of DPS. They told me one time that I didn't know the pedestrian rules of safety in the state code, even though I've been a driver in the state for 15 years. So I'm hoping DTS has a change of receptiveness in a more diplomatic way, but yeah.
Okay, well, thank you.
Sure. Thank you.
When are we gonna follow up
Um,
since he's
Well, I was just gonna talk about it. Do you want to take the first stab at the letter? That would be great.
Yeah, I can. I'll take a stab at it, as soon as I get the information from court. Yeah.
So I'll follow up with them regarding the complaint and see how to best proceed. If I'm understanding correctly, the DAC stated that either if the information cannot be provided, that somebody can come present and have a discussion about the finding, but I'll follow back up with you on that.
All right.
Yeah.
And we can also, you can send me what you have, and I can talk about how we are aware that the access board is usually the standard that it gets followed.
Yeah.
I can get clarification on that from people I work with.
Yeah, and the staff member names as well. So I'll try to go back. Actually, I'll go back on the meeting
It
minutes.
doesn't sound like we need the staff members' names. We could just say, you can get it from the meeting minutes.
Yeah, so I'll go follow up on that. So I put that on my action agenda for me.
And that makes me want to raise one other thing. I don't know if this is the right time to raise it, but I had promised to get information back on our letter about housing, and Doris was going to review it. I did not follow up with Doris, but I do believe that I understand why we had her review it, because we wanted her to review it because rules. But I am of the opinion that we might want to just send it anyway.
I was going to say that.
Yeah.
Because we don't have, my firm belief is that we don't have to be experts. We just have to raise the concerns we see. So I am going first, so she will know, and then just send it, because we need it to be sent, and that's that. So, especially since I mentioned it at the show.
We need a record of having done
Yeah.
things.
So,
agree.
so
Yes.
that is my plan. So did you get that down? I mean, Courtney, okay, great. So I don't know what's next, but it didn't look like we had a very big agenda. So I was wondering if I could mention one other thing. Am I allowed to mention?
Your meeting.
Oh, okay. Suzette,
Is there a way to permanently make these meetings closed captioned for me?
well, yeah, I mean, if we use Zoom, it comes with closed caption. I don't know.
I can
Teams
turn it
does.
on.
Because
Yeah.
every time I come, I have to ask. So
My apologies, I'll
Oh, okay, great. Thank you
okay.
for mentioning that. And thank you for following up with that. So the one other thing I wanted to mention was that I know there's usually a spot for me to make this report. Was that we on occasion, the county board will, it's usually Matt DeFerry, I think they call them. They'll call together a commission chair meeting. And so all the chairs of the various commissions get on the phone, and Bryna Hefner, I'm Bryna, who's super cool, and I'm getting her name wrong, coordinates this. And so one of those happened just this evening, right before the meeting. And we were all asked if we had ideas for how to save taxpayer money, but we were also given the right to say what our priorities are. And so at each of these commission meetings, I've raised the same priority, which are two priorities. One, the need for better accounting of accessible units within county affordable housing, and the need for a ADA coordinator to oversee in the county to make sure that ADA and fair housing requirements are met. So so I just wanted to say this is probably the third meeting where those are the two things I raised. But it occurs to me that maybe I should take your input as to what I should raise at the next commissioners meeting, because right now I'm only mentioning those two, and we have new members, a lot of new members, and so if this is something that you want to discuss now, or you can put on the think about for the next meeting, I would love to be able to tell at the next chairs meeting. I know that they take notes, and I know that they do actually listen, or at least Matt did, to my knowledge. So if you have other issues besides those two that you really think we should mention as our priority, I was going to mention the STAR issue, but because it had been tabled, I wasn't sure whether it was our top priority still.
Yeah, it looks like since the Transit Bureau lost staff, it looks like they're kind of going back to the drawing board with hiring people out. I don't know how much of a reprieve we want to give them, but since they don't have someone heading that up right now, I also don't know how much yelling we want to do when we don't have someone to yell at. So, you know, I'm feeling kind of stuck about.
Courtney?
I'm sorry, we do have the meeting minutes, and we have two commissioners, Brian and Ann, who want to also present items as sorry, I forgot.
Okay, great. Well, I one last thing on this. I think that when the chairs are asked, they're asked for priorities that might cost money. So, so for example, the chirp issue might not cost money, and so it might not be mentioned, but things like the housing for sure, an ADA coordinator for sure. So if you want to put it on the agenda for next time, if anybody has thoughts on what we should raise. Oh,
I have an immediate ask.
yes, immediate ask. All
An
right.
immediate ask. If someone could do an audit and adjust all the push button walk signals so that if you're in a wheelchair, you can actually access them.
Oh, that
Because
is
there
excellent.
is about a 55% rate where I can't reach in a wheelchair the button
Absolutely.
to cross the walk.
And some of the times it's ridiculous things, like they put it in the middle of a garden.
Right,
It's
yes.
like,
So-
those
Yeah.
are very pretty flowers, but.
And all you gotta do is put a metal pole in that extra wire.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I will, okay, so how would you like to have me articulate that ask? So you want an assessment?
An assessment, an audit, or somebody to walk the streets and with a screwdriver or redesign, because there's too many times where I approach and I cannot.
Assessment audit of, I need to get the wording right.
A study, so they use the county's favorite word, a study on the accessibility of crosswalk control devices.
And I'm thinking that that's not something that a county member who doesn't use a wheelchair or have a physical impairment might be able to answer. So are we asking for somebody from the county to be escorted by somebody on our commission?
That, you know, lots of people can get into a wheelchair and sit in a wheelchair, able-bodied people, and try, but but there is so much.
Maybe a walk-in role meeting with a county board member and county staff to, especially if there's like a corridor that's, you know, the biggest offender, so they can like see, have a actual representation of what that looks like.
Or we can say, starting with highest use corridors and I'm just thinking that if we're not very specific, they might, I mean, so we could say that the commission is happy to work with board member, to work with county staff to achieve this goal or something.
Yeah. And then another, sorry.
The second immediate ask, I don't know if it's also appropriate, but the pedestrian bridge over Route 50 by TJ, it's not accessible and it's not lit. So the stair part, they have nice fancy lights, but the accessible part is not lit, and you get dumped into a parking lot where cars actually park, so you can't always ramp. And then they have a post that actually blocks the wheelchair from actually being able to navigate it fluidly and access the bridge. So
TJ Bridge.
Yeah, the pedestrian bridge, where the stairs are all well lit and they all have nice lighting, but the ramp portion is unlit and unmaintained.
That opens back up because I read in early December.
I used it tonight, but I hate using it because it's very hard to use.
They have a different pedestrian bridge close to Fort Myer. That's the one I was thinking about. Yeah.
Okay, great. Those are two good issues. I any issue is good. I don't need to express an opinion.
Yeah. I did have one ask, and I'm not sure, it's probably not going to be immediate, but, something that they can consider on the next CIP or ask Metro to put on their next CIP is to rehab all of the elevators in the Metro system. Like, they rehabilitate the escalators, because I've heard from some of my friends who've had to use the elevators, that they're out of service constantly, and the best solution Metro has is go to the next station. Yeah. And considering every year that county citizens vote on bond referendums to pour a lot of money into Metro, it'd be nice to see some improvements on their accessibility features that not only disabled folks use, people with disabilities use, but those of an older age use.
I'm all for the part when we're talking about in the Disability Advisory Commission for disability, but I'm more, I don't want to put the idea of senior citizen with it, because that's something, in my opinion, that needs to be pulled apart.
Well, I mean, it
because
isn't.
There's too often, there are a lot of things in Arlington County that senior citizens are capable of getting that a person with a disability are not.
Well, I mean, for this is an infrastructure thing, so if we get support from other members of the community, it's a strength and
I understand, but I'd also like it to be support for, people living with a disability, not just having to say, yeah, we're putting in. Do you understand what I'm saying?
I understand what you're saying. I think
I've lived in Arlington for over 40 years, and I was denied most of my life for public services. And I want to see more of what there is of, I think the most important part is the ADA coordinator when it comes to money.
Yeah. We should sort of put our request from highest to lowest, but I think we should still be able to, maybe sometimes want something's easier than another, and we might get traction on it. So I'll mention all of these, starting with the new ones, because these have not been mentioned before. Anybody else can just continue to we can make this, a standing item if you want, requests of, to mention, no, I mean, these are some of our priorities. So, great, thank you for letting me go out of order. So now we'll move on to the agenda, which I'm relying on Courtney.
It's, so the approval of October 18th, 2022 and November 15th, 2022 meeting minutes.
Okay.
So we have a quorum.
Yeah.
Yes.
Has anyone read the minutes that would like to? Okay, cool. Jennifer has. Would you like to make a motion?
I motion to approve.
Second.
Go ahead.
Excellent. Okay. Then.
And then after that, we have Commissioner Atkins, talking about Fairfax electronic meeting policy. 2 links were provided to DAC for review prior to meeting.
Oh, that you sent out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what I read, and I was actually able to confirm this with the Alexandria People with Disability Commission, is that the policy presented to us by the county attorney's office is in compliance with the the state law that oversees this. So it appears that Fairfax was still under their emergency, their state of emergency order,
Mm-hmm.
And I think you.
Yeah, I think Courtney
Yeah,
surmised that.
yeah, so.
Through Doris was the one that.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
So unfortunately, since, the county manager and the county board concurred on ending the state of emergency,
Yeah.
we have to fall back. So,
Well, thank you for checking on that. I know you did a lot of research.
yeah, no
I
problem.
appreciate
Yeah. So fingers crossed, call your representative in Richmond and get 5 of your friends to call their legislators in Richmond to get that bill to make our public meetings more accessible to citizens who wish to serve. Yeah.
Okay,
So that's my report.
great.
Mhm.
And
Next, we have Commissioner Ann to talk about Arlington County Board meeting on Saturday, January 21st.
oh yes, I thought that was good.
I noticed that one of the issues for the board meeting then is going to be about equity housing. There's that. And there's going to be, I don't know the time exactly in the meeting in which they're going to talk about that. That's why I was going to ask
Okay,
you,
I'll
Courtney.
look it up.
But I wanted to see if anyone would be interested in going to the meeting to see that the part of people with disabilities included.
It's this Saturday?
The 21st.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And it's located where they have the board meetings in this building, right?
Yes, they're usually held in the third floor, the main.
Right, the main one. Okay, I think it's a great idea. Does anyone want to go? We would be going with you, right? You'd be our.
I would go, and I was just seeing though if any, I mean, I'm not gonna go alone, obviously, I mean, but
Well, you could, but I understand that you don't want to.
not really. I don't feel that that's, I mean, there was a time before we went when we spoke of the scooters on the sidewalks. That's the only time since I've been in this meeting that we've gone to a board meeting. But
So are we, I know, Madam Chair, that you were saying that you were going to be sending the letter. Maybe if you send out a version, whatever the final version of the letter is, maybe people could, take their testimony from some of what's written in.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a good idea. Or speak from the heart.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm not saying that, I'm
Right,
just
that's a
saying,
good idea.
I'm just saying that could be handy if
Right,
it's possible to get it out in time, to have something to look down on.
right.
Priority 1, this is priority 2, this is priority 3,
if that's the sake though, can you send out a copy to
Yeah, I will.
members
I'm not
of
gonna
so
send it
that
without you guys
'cause the
looking
one
at it.
part I am curious to, if you could,
Because it's been so long since anybody's seen the letter, so.
yeah,
if we're
remind me, included in the letter, the percentage of type A,
I can't recall,
because that's one of the areas that Doris is always very,
but it is addressed in the letter, I remember. But I can't recall what the percentage was. It was way back when Rosemary.
well, she wanted to increase, both her and Rosemary,
Oh, okay.
Doris and Rosemary.
Yeah, if you're wanting us to look over the letter, I don't know if it can be sent. That's the thing.
Right.
So do you have a date when you're sending it, or do we want to nail something like that down?
Well, I could send it out this evening and give people 2 days. I mean, if you don't do a short deadline, people don't tend to look anyway, right?
Right.
So, but actually, I said I would contact Doris first, so I probably won't send it out this evening. I probably will contact Doris tomorrow. Then,
Depends how she's feeling, if she'll.
well, I mean, and then we could have Thursday, Friday, but the thing's on Saturday.
Right.
Give 1 day to
Yeah,
review.
so we maybe don't have time.
It looks like you have thoughts, Courtney.
Oh, I just wanted to let you know, yes, it's January 21st. Public comment is at 8:30
Uh-huh.
a.m., no later than 9. So I'll follow up with Graham, their board liaison, just to get you guys on the agenda for public comment. Is that what you're?
Oh, that's good, because I'm familiar with when you had to get there early in the morning and sign up, so we don't have to do that.
Right, I don't think so. I think it's a different process. So I'll follow up with Graham just to let him know that you guys are.
Okay, so we have to be there at 8 or 9?
So 8:30, but I think they also have a are they doing a virtual?
Yeah, they still do virtual.
The public comment is virtual. So let me, if you like, I can follow up with Graham.
Yeah, that'd be
yeah.
great, and
Okay.
virtual would be that, because
Yeah.
I'm not gonna volunteer if I have to get there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
getting there by 8:30 is kind of an.
And don't we get like 5 minutes instead of the standard 2?
Let me
Yeah.
ask him. I'll follow up with Graham
Yeah.
Okay, great.
And this equity thing, is there a board report about this, or it's just a topic that we're wanting to bring up?
I don't think that there is a report. I might be
Okay.
wrong, that area. I
Uh-huh.
don't think there is one yet. They're still coming with deciding. Part of it is they call it, part of it is the middle housing
Okay,
part.
yeah.
And where they're even talking about some of the houses that they're gonna make in 3 levels. But when you do that, where is the consideration for people with disabilities?
Well, yeah, I talked to some of the proponents of that, and unfortunately, unless the county is throwing in some of its money through AHIF, there's not much control they can do, since these would be private developments. Now, let's say APA or HC decided to get into this business, or something like Habitat for Humanity,
Absolutely.
and they request AHIF money, then we can, then I think the county has more
I
control.
don't know the specifics yet, because the plan,
Yeah, so I mean, of course, we can discuss more when the plan goes out.
because it's still a what if. So, but the reason why I wanted us to be there though is so that they do have consideration for including, because when it comes to housing, Arlington.
So it's easy enough for us to say, if anything is to be supported with county dollars, then we remind the county, we don't have to urge, we remind the county that accessibility has to be provided. And so.
Again, and Doris again is another one that knows all the details of the Fair Housing Act when it that
Right.
Bringing in.
Right, it has to be a certain number of units, but if it's supported by county funds, I believe it has to be accessible. That would be the issue under the ADA, because it's, but
When Arlington, when they come to accessible, APA, their newest Gilliam place, when I saw that building, they didn't even have where there was, the wheelchair accessible doors. Courtney helped me get in contact with people to be able to get some of the doors. And none of the trash rooms have wheelchair accessible electronic doors. It boggles my mind where we are in Arlington when it comes to accessibility of new developments.
Right. Well,
And
that's
mandated by ADA.
I'm sorry?
That's not mandated by ADA. That's a luxury.
Yeah, the ADA would only require places open to the public to be accessible. And
But
so
when
that
we're
would,
talking about
that
where
would
people
include,
are living with disabilities, I mean,
that would be the Fair Housing Act. And I think it has
That's why I
something to do with the number of units in the facility, whether they're open to, I don't know on the Fair Housing Act, but I know that the ADA, if it is using some public funds, then places open to the public have to be accessible. But accessibility doesn't require a push button. I think accessibility just requires the width of the door.
right, but at the same time too, if someone's going through and putting efforts in, it can be done.
I agree.
And that's something that even as a group here, that we can get more
Yeah,
of
we can
that. So
encourage.
it is. It will encourage it, or also if there's, people at times willing to make a phone call to reach out and to be able to get more of that.
Right.
And
Yeah.
because I understand,
Because
I mean, part of the
Arlington's
reason.
code can be different from the ADA.
Well, the place-
Arlington's code could say, accessible housing shouldn't, well, I don't know how specific they
Well, a
want to
lot
get.
of times it goes by when the building was built. And.
Well, yeah. They're not required to come up to ADA requirements unless it's reasonably readily achievable, or if it's renovated.
But at the same time, because what I was using at that time is they built it with type A units there for people to live in.
Right.
And was, able to get that it did have some wheelchair accessible doors. Not all of them, but putting efforts in by humans to help start off and show more
Right.
that there is out there of what can be a foundation for us to use as a platform, that it does help people with disability.
Right.
I strongly feel is part of what also needs to be done with a group. That's my opinion, I know.
Yeah, no, I think what you're getting at is there's disability rights versus disability justice. How do we really want the world to be? Versus what the statute says.
It's not really want. When you have a disability, it's what you need.
Need. I should say that. You're
Yeah.
absolutely right.
That's been, being an Arlington County resident, it's been a factor that my parents had to fight, and I've had to also throughout.
Exactly.
And it's an area that that's why I joined this committee, to, hopefully see others that, are willing to even take a Saturday to, make a place for us to be included, and to see that, putting forward these types of actions can.
Absolutely. When I said I wouldn't go at 8:30, it's because I need to.
I'm not offended by it. It's okay. You don't have to explain. I get it.
But what I want to ask Courtney is, are we allowed to speak on behalf of the committee on things that have only been vetted, or do we have to speak as an individual? So, for example, like the things we put in our letter, we could possibly say have been vetted because I've had a small committee look at it. But if we want to say, for example, what Ann said, okay, my question is, do we have to speak on behalf of ourselves or on behalf of the committee? And if we speak on behalf of the committee, does it have to be reasonably vetted that the committee feels that way?
Let me follow up with Graham on that.
Okay.
I feel like we may have, I feel like we've this question before, and I thought it was as a committee, but let me just double check.
Okay.
And this is your letter to the board, or this is during public comment at the board meeting?
Public comment on Saturday. Like, I could see going and just giving my own public comment saying people with disabilities have to be thought of. But if Graham is setting it up as a committee thing, then maybe I have to, just, I don't know. Just could you ask Graham if
I will.
Be vetted in some way. And then if it does, I don't think that's a problem because we could refer to this letter. And I was thinking about the letter, Alexa. Even if we don't get it out by Saturday, we could still use the letter knowing that we will get it out next week.
Okay,
so
can
it
you
doesn't actually have to
circulate
be
whatever
in
the
their
most
hands.
recent
Yeah,
version of it
so I
is?
can still circulate it. I can still say 2 days to look at it. But because I want to check with Doris, if that is a slight delay, then, and we don't get it out by Saturday, we can still reference that we are sending it, and we can still refer to that. Do you guys agree? Yeah. And what I'm asking wouldn't squelch you from saying exactly what you want to say and for me saying exactly what we want to say. It just depends on whether we want to speak as a commission or whether we want to speak as ourselves. So we could.
Well, that's what I want to know from the others too, also. I
Right,
mean, I don't
right.
want to myself because
Yeah, I mean, my question about you speaking individually is that one person per topic rule that the county board has. I'm not sure if Elizabeth
One person
speaking.
per topic?
I think when we asked this, because I remember asking this, and she had mentioned that I think it was okay for one person to speak, but everybody was there in support, but I think it's one person speaking on behalf.
Including
Oh,
commission.
okay.
Right, but let me just double check.
Yeah. I mean, of
That'd be
course,
great.
that
That would
helps.
be you because you're impassioned and then you can say, I'm here
because
for
when
support.
we did, I guess that was okay.
Yeah,
Okay,
I mean, Chair Dorsey can of course waive that requirement.
because, does anybody disagree with that Ann has said to this point?
No, I agree that the
I
county
agree.
can do better in
Yeah.
including, I know Doris sits on the housing and as our representative, but, I think, particularly with Missing Middle, from what I've seen, our commission was sort of only consulted through Doris with her position. So I would, in future housing plans, like if they redo the affordable housing master plan, I would really like our commission to be involved in that, particularly in the type A and housing equity component.
So I don't know much about the Missing Middle Plan. Does it include affordable housing?
There is discussions. I'm halfway through it. It's a 127-page document. But from what I mean, I did a quick search of the word disabled and it only popped up twice. So I'm not sure.
It's legitimate for you to say to the extent that affordable housing is considered, don't forget that it must also be accessible,
Yeah.
or however you say it, which is, I'm constantly thinking like a lawyer, which is not statutorily required. I'm scared to say it, but.
Well, it's good
you
to
don't
have
to
that in the group about if you're.
Since you mentioned that, so I did notice that the county is conducting a home ownership study. Did anyone else know that the county was doing that?
No. When did that start, or when is it?
I think I heard about it because I signed up for the Arlington County alerts. They come every day, and I think they mentioned it there.
So they had their last subcommittee meeting was December 13th. I would like us to be included on the housing homeownership study. I mean, the most accessible housing is in the affordable housing stock. But when we come to homeownership, I know I had a friend who had to move to Maryland just to find a suitable.
Well,
So
the person that really. Oh, I'm sorry.
So you're asking if the survey has not already been done, we wanted to look at things like accessibility, that sort of thing. If the survey's already been done, what is the ask?
So looking at their website, it looks like they're in phase 1, which is we'll conduct data research on trends in mortgage financing in the local housing market, as well as an analysis of the county's existing home ownership programs. These analysis. So this is to develop the RFP to get the consultant.
Cool. So this is the absolute time where we could ask them to come and say what we want. Although we've now shown that asking them to come and saying what we want doesn't do diddly. We have to write a letter.
One of the things that reminds me of is our former chairperson, Bill.
Yeah, Bill.
The reason he had to leave, he's married, and him and his wife were not able to find accessible, affordable housing here. I actually communicated with just to see how he's doing, and he's living now in West Virginia in a trailer.
You mentioned that.
And his wife goes every weekend, but she's still here in Arlington. working at a school, but being able to find accessible home ownership and
Oh, there is a way we can address that. I mean, there used to be a program. I found out about it when I first joined the committee. I think somebody was on the committee that knew about this program, where if you needed to make your home accessible, like a ramp or widening a door, the county had a limited funds, and I think it was up to 1,500, which you could laugh at, but it was up to 1,500. And then after 4 years, it went down to 500, but you could still get some things. And when I called them, because I was renovating our bathroom, and then also because my house is not accessible, I wanted a ramp. They said that the program had sunsetted, that Arlington no longer had the program.
Yeah.
So that is, for example, something.
Do we know that? Do they not have the?
Well, I asked about 4 years ago. It might have come back.
We did it last year, and I don't think they still have it anymore.
Okay.
So I have a
So that is
staff
something that we could ask.
Yeah.
For it to be brought back.
Well, so my staff ask is, what is county staff's plans to include us in phase 2, the community engagement / values and visioning phase, which looks like it's about to begin according to the scope document. I'm not sure if they're behind, but
We really want it on phase 1 because if they don't ask the question,
yeah.
there'll be no
Right.
data.
Yeah, so, I guess making us the staff. Well, today's like the phase 1 is the data analysis. Phase 2 is when they
Right.
do the community engagement.
Right.
So I think,
We need it in phase 1.
yeah, either phase 1 or phase 2.
No, we need it in phase 1 because we say you need to collect data on for how,
That's way overdue.
although I don't know how they would collect the data. I mean, what is it, like ask how many houses are
Yeah,
ranch
I
houses?
know. Yeah, one of the deliverables is analysis of ownership, housing, and barriers to home ownership in Arlington. So yeah, I guess some more further explanation on what they've included.
But in it, I'm just curious though, because I mean, this might be totally nonsense, but also when it comes to the home ownership, it's also of the home having a person with a disability. So how do we, I mean.
Well, that could be another question. That's why we need to be here in the phase 1 because we need to say, excellent, see, that's excellent. We need to say what questions we want them to ask, right? I mean,
So yeah, one of the study questions that they are considering is, should specific populations be prioritized for home ownership support? Includes BIPOC, seniors,
excellent.
families, public safety workers, county residents, and employees, etc. So I'm assuming we're in the et cetera, but it would be nice to get, the housing division to say,
Wow, I'm so glad you brought this up, Brian.
have them,
Okay.
yeah, have them present, or at least say like, here's the document that shows what we're including, here's the plan, so we know ahead of time to prepare, so we don't get like blindsided.
Right. So yeah, ask if it can be done so that we would have some input on what data is collected. Excellent. Wow, both of you,
Yeah,
excellent.
thank you for bringing that up.
No problem. Yeah, I'm glad I did the search on that. Housing.
Do you know who's the head of that?
Let me see the staff contact. Caitlin Jones is the study coordinator.
Is that with a K or a C?
C.
Okay.
And to go back to your question, I'd be happy to present with you,
Oh, thank you.
even if it means I have to get Eric to put my scooter in the car and like the brake upon.
I appreciate that a lot.
That's why we're here.
Thank you. It means a lot.
And I'm
Anyone
glad you
else?
said that because it shook my head, like, oh my God, that's why we're on this. So if anyone
Is
else wants to
anyone
join
else
us.
interested for going to the board meeting about?
I can express my concerns to the county board, but unfortunately I have a prior engagement that day.
And you've agreed to help write the letter on,
Yeah.
so
Mhm.
you're covered. Not
Uh,
not that I'm.
So did we decide that county board thing, is it going to be virtual or do we not know yet?
So county board is in person, however, I believe the public comment portion is virtual, so you can come in virtually. So let me just
Okay.
follow up with Graham to see if it's either or. I know they're pushing
Yeah,
public comment.
let me know,
for
because if they want
Mhm.
this to be there in person, I can try, but I'm just
Virtual.
really
Mhm.
slammed with work and I would prefer not to wake up quite that early.
Yeah, and like,
You have a lot of experience working with disabilities and helping. Alexa was the one that, when I first
Mhm.
learned of a housing grant, she helped me, so
Right.
I
Yeah.
There's
really
only one person,
value.
it's gonna be you,
Okay.
so.
Right,
Yeah.
right, that's the other thing. All of that will be in
Right.
email, I guess?
Yeah,
That's what we still have to
Okay.
learn.
You
'cause
saw the
Okay,
Graham and
yeah,
provide
yeah,
it
yeah.
out for it.
I'll keep an eye out for the email.
Last time we spoke at an event, there were multiple people. Michael was still in the group. Michael spoke, Doris spoke.
Mhm.
Were you at that, the one about the scooter?
I don't think I was, I think I had something else I needed to do.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I've always been able to like be one of people to speak.
That's fine having one. I'm
But
just.
maybe they changed, that's what we, I'm
Right.
Let me just
yes,
clarify, I
that
could
would
be
be-
wrong.
yeah.
No, but yeah,
So-
thank you for checking. I
Yeah.
appreciate it.
And just, even though it's a one person per speaker rule, you can send all the emails you want about the topic to countyboard@arlingtonva.us. So doesn't restrict you from saying your piece,
Yeah,
just restricts it verbally.
yeah. And thank you
Right.
for sharing that. I mean, I think as a group though, we want to have one consistent.
Yeah, no, obviously.
Better,
Yes.
more so
Yeah.
that
Yes.
guiding and helping.
Yes.
So that's what I hope we can come across
Yes.
to a
Jennifer?
consistency of.
I'd just like to comment really quickly that I think it would be a good idea for the commission to be involved in the phase one, especially if they're planning a new property with accessible housing.
Mhm.
And I do think it needs to be considered because, not to put the spotlight on myself, but I just became a homeowner within the last year. And so,
Congratulations.
thank you.
Yeah, congratulations,
Thank you.
awesome.
But it's not about me, but the reason something just came into my mind was I've had to consistently ask like management and the head people like how to make something more accessible. Because when we first moved in to our current unit, almost nothing was accessible. So we had to, I had to write a request saying I need a fold down seat,
Yeah.
I need grab bars, I need, mostly just for the bathroom, but I said, it would be nice if like newer properties already had some of the accessible features in them, so then, people with disabilities wouldn't always have to say like, oh, I have to go ask for this and I won't always be heard, but I need to be heard.
Right,
So
right.
it would just be nice, like going forward, like if people would consider like how people with disabilities like I don't know how to say this, like if they would consider, what the challenges are for people with disabilities and how they need to live as independently as possible, I
Yeah.
think it would
Yeah.
be good for them to say, okay, so we've gotten the input from a commission who has members with disabilities, and now we can like plan for future reference, like
Right.
this is
Because,
what we
yeah.
can do to like promote change, and like they don't always have to feel like, oh, I'm being left out because, of A, B, and C.
Yeah, I mean, when you think about it, even beyond what the law requires, the county has pull in, if you think about Amazon, like they made this deal with Amazon, no taxes if you do this, this, and this. And I'm sure they did like, a certain percentage accessible, or maybe, but, these are kinds of things they could put in, like grab bar ready, or, yeah.
So I wanted to make, it's an idea I've had in my head for a while, and I'm really asking the question of, can we add this as a coverable expense for Medicaid? Like, have the county put it on their legislative priorities to make accessible equipment covered by Medicaid?
Well, durable, medical equipment's already covered.
So like grab bars and stuff?
Well, a grab bar is a durable medical
Okay,
equipment.
sorry, yeah, I'm not used to that, I'm not,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So, it is true that, well, the county can't determine what's accessible by Medicaid, but the state, does determine, what Medicaid will cover.
Yeah.
But there's certain things they have to cover, and durable medical equipment is one of them, so
Okay,
we don't need to make that ask. But
Okay.
but I think it's good to keep raising these things.
Yeah, I
Do you
think it's
agree?
a good idea, but I think it's a complicated one too, because when it comes to Medicaid and.
Yeah.
No, I mean, we gotta have people throw out
Right,
ideas and,
no, yeah.
but I just so happen to know about Medicaid, so I
yeah,
know that,
okay,
that would qualify as durable medical equipment, because its use is primarily, as, needed for a disability purpose.
okay, cool.
Yeah.
Now, I would also like for the county not to, I'm not, now, another question is, when the county does its assessment of property value, would something like a ramp be counted as an improvement?
Well,
No.
do you know, it's
It's
actually.
actually a detractor.
Exactly,
Oh, okay.
exactly.
It actually decreases the.
I know, I was shocked to
Oh.
find that out, shocked.
Okay, well,
Yeah.
maybe we can ask them to reverse that policy.
Well, but I don't think the county is in charge of how assessments are. I don't know, I don't know, but.
It's because it's not visually appealing.
Yes, yeah,
So you detract from your neighbor's property value.
Well,
exactly.
McMansion's not visually appealing. Where do I put it? Bus.
People are just so weird, like
Yeah.
a house that has two doors in the front, apparently, that detracts from the value. Even though to me, it means it's accessible, I mean
Right.
affordable, but it's crazy what people believe.
Okay. Well, that's a larger discussion.
Yeah,
on the,
that is
on the-
definitely its own.
on the systemic issues of
And
housing
your
assessment.
neighbors can fight.
Yeah.
Just so you know, in Arlington County.
I believe.
And my neighbor did.
Like in county
Wow, to
code.
put in a ramp?
Yes,
Oh.
your neighbors can.
Quick way to learn how somebody truly is.
Yeah.
Okay,
It's
well,
quite fun.
so that I in terms of our policy, if that's county code, we can definitely.
Now, is that because I know that in order to build something new on your property, in Arlington, you have to get permission from individuals on your block. So I wonder if that's how that comes in?
Well,
It comes in from a lot of ways. There's so many aspects, so it really depends on your neighbor. But if your home is offset, and so lots of homes don't meet the current offsets or weren't built, and the different, like I live in an R6, but my neighbors are not spaced in the R6 designation, okay? So the houses are closer together than what they're legally supposed to have been,
I see.
right? So somebody at some point in time, but then your house is supposed to be set back from the
Back
county
curve,
line.
If I knew
But
that,
your ramp has to go beyond that because your ramp can only be 1 inch per so many feet of incline. And
right?
so then your ramp has to end up on county property in order to be able to be an ADA ramp. And even though it's still the entrance walk to my house, is technically county property. Otherwise, I'd have to set my house and pick it up and move it 4 feet back so that the ramp was only on my property, county property.
And
and as
it's-
soon as
it's
it touches-
It's a county rule, not a state rule, because that's definitely.
I'm just
asked for.
saying that that's what I incurred, is that when the ramp entered into the county zone in order to be accessible, then my neighbors got to have the ability to say yes or no, because it didn't touch the sidewalk that's in front. It was just my, but
Wow,
it's on county property.
oh, it's in that conveyance thing.
Right,
Yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
because, they have their
Right,
easement
they have
from
their
the
easement.
center of the street is 2 feet.
Yeah.
And so however that is,
Yeah.
there's some portion of your property that is a county easement and your neighbors can
So that's
dictate.
within
That is
Arlington
definitely
County itself.
something we
Yes.
could-
See, the neighborhood you live in, does it also have like a community, like,
HOA?
like
No.
a union, like a, yeah.
Oh,
No.
Civic Federation? Yeah.
No.
Neighborhood
And some of them
association.
do in
Yeah.
Arlington.
Yeah.
No,
Some
and
of
they
them
even
check
fought
within
me
that.
on the, because I had to get handicapped signs in front of my house because my neighbors were parking in front of my house. And so it was one of those things where I wanted to be able to like guarantee that I could
Yeah.
park there so that I could have access.
Right.
And that was also a neighbor thing where your neighbors have the ability to, because it's street parking, public parking, and then you're taking away the street and public parking. So I'm just
Wow.
gonna.
So that is definitely something we could ask
Did
for.
you get that
that-
through?
I finally got a county employee after 5 years to give me but my neighbor is now trying to get it removed because he's angry that like
Wow.
I know someone else.
because I didn't get a say where they put it. The county employee came out and they dictated where it went. And
Wow, because
the
I'm in
neighbor-
that, I have that same situation. I can only get into my house from where I have a banister to the stairs. And luckily I get along with all my neighbors, so they know, but it's just a very small part in my pathway. But, wow, I mean, I could see that happening to so many people. But I could see that this is something where if the county has some sort of requirement like that about entering the public lands, that we could ask for there to be an automatic waiver if necessary
should,
for
yes.
accessibility.
And I also wonder how the missing middle plan is going to impact that, because I know it's gonna change all of the setbacks
Oh,
with the zoning change.
Huh.
So that would be another question for the housing homeownership study.
well, it's great, see Suzette, it's great you're here, and
Yeah,
we
thank you
can,
for sharing that.
Yeah.
And thank you for, you're pursuing with
'cause
that
now it's in the
and getting
minutes,
it.
and we
I
can,
applaud you with that,
Look
'cause
into
it's not
that.
easy.
Yeah. yeah,
Oh my gosh.
so that can be,
Mhm.
something that we,
yeah,
Mhm.
so my ramp had to be non-permanent. So that it can be easily lifted up.
And I'm sure that requires
And
more
moved.
maintenance costs.
It's just, it's always funny that,
Okay.
wow.
Wow.
So, I mean, technically, we should put that in our housing letter, but I'm so afraid for it to be delayed too much. It's been delayed like 18 months. That we will pursue it through a different avenue.
Yeah.
So, what's next on our agenda? Is it committee report? Sorry, I should.
Yes, liaison reports, site plan review, which is usually yours, she's there. Transient Advisory Commission Accessibility Subcommittee.
Yeah, the Transit Advisory Commission is actually meeting right now. So I am here, so I can't tell you what they are doing right now. We did not.
Why not?
We did not have a subcommittee meeting because we don't have any news on the STAR stuff because of the change in staff. So everything is just sort of ground to a halt. But, again, as usual, I exhort people to keep this in their minds. And, when we get someone, we might get news that's not great. So
Right.
be
We
ready to
definitely-
pounce on the news
Well, right, I
that's
mean,
not
that's
great when we get
a
it.
big priority
Yeah.
for us.
Speaking of that, has DTS hired those empty positions?
So they haven't informed me, I can follow back up.
Okay.
That coming off the holidays,
Yeah.
maybe not, but I'll definitely follow back up with, because I believe it was Lynn Rivers.
Okay.
Yeah, when she spoke to me, she basically said, we're almost to the point where we're gonna hire somebody, but we're not there yet. So
Okay.
whether that means we have someone in mind and we're just running all the checks, or whether
Yeah.
that,
Sorry, Alexa. I should
we're
have-
deciding between three people. No, that's fine.
Yeah.
But, it does look like that is something that's a priority. So again, I'm not sure when we're gonna get news, but
I'm so glad you're watching that though,
Yeah.
because that is a big, for us. So.
Yeah, and hopefully us coming in with all these checks indicates like, hey, like, make sure you include us, or
Yes,
we're ready.
yes.
We're ready to.
Right.
Yeah.
So then we have Housing Commission, Doris. She's not here.
WMATA, which is historic.
Then we have me. Does anybody attend these Vision Zero groups? Because I was put on as, I thought, an alternate, and I got a very nice email from the person saying, thank you for agreeing to be an alternate, but I haven't heard anything about it. But it sounds like you mentioned Vision Zero a lot. I thought maybe you were on that.
Yeah, no, I haven't been official to it, but if they're still looking for, the primary, yeah, I can add that to my schedule. Yeah.
Yeah. That would be great, because I still am on, it's off the agenda because we hadn't met for a while, but I still am on the committee to discuss policing and ensuring that individuals with mental health needs can call and get assistance without necessarily involvement of the police. That committee has been off the agenda for a while because they had tabled their meetings, but they are restarting up. So, they actually had one since, and they talked about that they have more time to put together a report. I think I talked about this more a long while ago when it started, but basically the issue is that since the county has to set up a system, sort of like 988, you all might have heard of 988, where supposedly individuals could call and get assistance so that it's not like calling 911 and the police automatically come out.
Yeah.
The concern that I raised on the last committee call was the county has to go forward with 988, and yet they can make determinations about who answers 988, what agency provide this service. And they had one of the agencies come and speak with us and say the training that she receives to answer the 988 calls. And I asked her, do you indicate that the calls are confidential? And she said yes. But one of the big issues about 988 is that there's geolocation. And so while it's confidential, if the individual believes that the person calling may be suicidal, they can immediately go to their home, their office, their workplace, wherever they are, and have them taken away go to like an observation center, a warm down center. So I said, you indicate that your calls are confidential, but you need to indicate that an individual, that there is geolocation, and an individual could be, the police could come if they indicate they're suicidal. And this was tabled to a larger discussion. But there is a huge swath of the mental health community that it feels like 988 could be a great thing because it does divert, it does free up the police system and encourages more police to be trained in de-escalation and recognizing mental health issues. So those are terrific.
Yeah.
It also provides money, like for example, Arlington County has used some of the funds to have mobile crisis units. And most of the commission has been discussing things like if there is a mental health call and there's a statement that somebody might have a knife or a gun, should we automatically send police, or does that violate what we're trying to do here? If we automatically send police, should the police come in an unmarked car and come after the mental health provider? All of this said because many people, especially people of color, if the police get there first, get shot. And, there's just no awareness to recognize mental health issues. In fact, there was a teacher in Baltimore who was a very well-respected teacher, African-American. His family called because he was having a mental health crisis, indicated that it was a mental health crisis. The police pulled up, and I think it was within 50 seconds, he was shot and killed. But this kind of thing happens nationwide.
This was, Doris.
Marcus, go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry.
His name was Marcus.
Okay, well, what I was gonna say is Doris had sent us a link to a conference recently, to all the DAC members. And part of it was, what she emphasized of it was ADA coordinator would talk about. And I attended it. It was like 3 hours online. And part of it had people from different states. And some of them were talking about the mental health part, including the Marcus alert. And one that was in Vermont even actually was able to get a position working with the police that actually works with disabilities, in which what they're able to do though is identify then if a person, they have like portrayals for the police of a disability, being able to identify it so that they're not injected. I have some of the examples I can send out in an email. I took pictures of multiple of it and the resources there. And it was interesting how they were showing ways that are important, such as giving an example, a person with autism, that being able to have their headphones makes such a difference in being able to calm them down rather than injecting them with medication just to.
Exactly. Or a person with autism maybe acting erratically. The police say, put up your hands or state your name.
Right.
The individual doesn't. The police think they're being belligerent.
Exactly.
And they go in and handcuff them, and then the person gets even more agitated, and who knows, they get shot.
Exactly. That's what I was trying to say. They were showing examples of ways to be able to identify though ahead of time and let the police know of the disability so that, and better educate. It was an interesting, I can send out some of what I.
Oh, please do.
To everyone. It was interesting because it was talking a lot about the alert in that and ways of when it comes to mental health, being able to help.
Right. And the Marcus alert is interesting. Oh, go ahead. You had a.
Yeah, and to mention the autism thing, just to be, transparent to our new member, I do have autism. So I did receive reports around, I think it was October, I received it, where an ACPD officer actually assaulted a young adult with autism because of that. He was autistic, nonverbal, and didn't have his ACC device, so he was unable to communicate with the officer. And I think the officer was unable to communicate with them, and the officer went to grab the person with autism, didn't know what was going on, so he naturally resisted. And thankfully that individual is okay, but if that was the way that the CPD officer proceeded, I'm very worried about the next.
What I got too from that, the thing I went to is there's even within Arlington County right now a lawsuit that has to do with a person that has autism and the way that they were treated. That's what I heard from the person that was leading this
Yeah.
conference.
And I have a feeling I
And-
sent around something because I did have a public comment period, an open
Mhm.
call
Mhm.
to talk when this committee first formed. And so that might be, it might have been me who sent that around, and that might have been what you went to. But I have to say, I am really impressed with I'm not usually impressed, I'm very simple, but I am really impressed with the woman who coordinates the meeting and with the membership of the, it's very pretty.
Thank you.
And with the membership of this, they have a significant number of disability groups represented, including ASAN,
Oh, yeah.
and a significant number of DD groups, deaf organizations, because that's another issue. People get handcuffed and they can't communicate
Yeah.
with police. And then it just, they have private psychiatrists as well as the public county folks. It's really well done, but I should explain that there is a statute that requires, a federal statute that required every, a state statute that required every, based on Marcus, Marcus's family
Yeah.
pushed for this.
Yeah.
And they pushed for the state to require every county to come up with a plan for how they're going to respond to mental health emergencies in a way that de-escalates and hopefully prevents people from being in bad situations. So but the county could only afford to fund, even though every state could only afford to have certain counties funded. So certain counties, I don't know how they decided it. Maybe it was based on average income, maybe it was based on population, but certain counties were given money to develop systems and including mobile crisis units, more observation centers, what they call warm down places like that, training for officers. So some counties got money from the state to do this. Arlington did not.
No.
But they're still doing this, and they're a damn wealthy county, and they're small. So
should
they
be.
damn well be able to
Yes.
do this.
Yes.
And from what I can see from the woman that runs it, they're pretty darn serious. She's very, I've just been so impressed with
Who
how
runs
they're
what?
running
I'm sorry.
these Marcus Alert committee meetings.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so.
It's just, when it comes to Arlington County, though, it's disappointing of what is out there for.
Well, that's what they spent most of the first year talking about, is all the programs they have for individuals with mental health needs.
Yeah.
The concern that I've mentioned is that almost all the programs require you to leave your home to get assistance. Even when a mobile crisis comes to your door, they want you to leave your home to go to the van. And it for somebody, for example, with DD or autism, you might feel very comfortable in your home. And the idea that somebody is saying, great, we can provide you with mental health services, but you must come with me in this, sure, it's great, it's an unmarked car, it's very nice, oh, how great, but they still have to leave their home where they're comfortable
But that's the
in
area.
somebody else's car, and then they go to one of these warm down centers where they can be for 23 hours, because 24 Medicaid won't cover it. So I have routinely mentioned, why don't we have more services that can be provided to people in their home? Because, you have to, first of all, if you want to leave, you don't have your car. You feel like you're not allowed to leave because you're taken to an observation center that's run by the county. And what if you need to have your kids picked up? I mean, it's just, it sounds wonderful. All the programs they have sound wonderful, but except for kids, where services can be provided in the home. There's not a
But-
single program where people can actually be in their home and get
But
services.
how can you tell, when it comes to, when we're including people with disabilities and when it comes to a person that has an intellectual disability and then kids, it's also identifying the difference of those.
Well, that's
then
one of the
our-
things that Arlington is doing. They're training individuals to learn to recognize whether somebody might have a disability or not.
Yeah, and I will, I had a time, I've said this before in this group, that I had before when this was over 10 years ago, the last time, but the first time how I learned of housing grant was my parents, when I was living with them, called the police at a time when I was suicidal. And the police officer took me to it's no longer a building, of course, because Arlington's always building new buildings. It's now part of Virginia Hospital. But I was taken to see an emergency mental health specialist, a psychiatrist, and she actually asked for my parents' phone number also. And she was the one that advised family therapy. And that family therapy, my parents learned to let go and stop hovering me.
So it was
and
a
that
good thing.
I didn't, before then, I can show the letter where I was reaching out when Independent Center, Tony Trott, I was trying to work with him. I never learned of anything of housing grants. I finished my last 2 credits of my community college degree, associate's degree, through Virginia programs that help. And when I was talking with the license worker there, asking about other services with housing, no, there's nothing, no. And it took being taken by a police officer for me to learn of it.
So that is just a great example of why this is a good program, because the fact that your parent called, she might have said this is a mental health emergency, and they might have asked, like, is there a weapon involved or whatever. Now, if there's no weapon involved, it would bring somebody who's specially trained. Even if there was a weapon involved, I know because I've been on these meetings now, they'll have the police officer park down the block. So, because a police car itself can be agitating, so the idea is that the specially trained person comes in a car that doesn't look like a police vehicle. And if there's a weapon involved, the police are backup parked down the street, supposedly. But the idea is that more of these services are available, because it sounds like Arlington may have had some people who were trained at the time you called, or may not.
I didn't call.
But
I'm just being, my mother was the one, but she's a retired social worker from Fairfax County government.
So the idea is that this committee helps to, a lot of them are social workers and shrinks, and they help to identify like what the triggers are and what's needed. But a lot of what they spend time doing is just saying, these are all the great programs we have. And then the last meeting was about 988. And
I think it's getting the information out, in my opinion, that when it comes to people with disabilities, that we lack in of getting that information out.
So
in Arlington.
that is why they're doing
Well,
this,
that's a
because
statewide issue.
yeah.
Statewide, Virginia is more reactive than proactive on identifying needs. The state.
But even when it comes to like Arlington County Housing Grant, which is specifically within Arlington, they're not good at sharing that information. We have 14 languages, but when it comes to people with disabilities, even if in those 14 languages, it's more difficult today to get large print, and it should be easier today.
I'm glad you brought that up because one of an item I would like to focus on, and we can discuss it next meeting.
Great.
Would be to ask the county to make universal design for documents, a county manager policy.
Oh, yeah. They do it for schools, so so it seems like they should be able to do it in other ways.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. In schools, they only have like Spanish, but I think they have something automatic that says if you.
Yeah. Or because, and that's another thing, another ask that I want to make to the county. I ran the front page of the county website through a WCAG, the web standard thing.
Right.
And on the front page alone, there was 17 items that needed to be addressed just to make the front page accessible to screen readers and other devices and equipment. And, the county spent a lot of money redoing the website, and, we're getting all these errors.
Yeah.
Who knows what, if someone's trying to get that housing grant, if they go onto the front page, or even I can run a separate analysis of just the housing website. Are they able to navigate to those resources? Are they even able to go into the search box? So again, we can discuss it later, but I would love for us to work with the county to start having the conversation, universal design, and getting the website up to WCAG standards.
That was actually one of the reasons why I joined the committee. Last year I was in a really traumatic accident and was unable to move for myself mostly, and needed help getting to and from appointments and needing county resources, and could not, despite hours of trying, figure out exactly what certain programs were for me because of my age and because it was
they have it all.
But I couldn't, I had to dig through so much and something working, and I was very frustrated, and then couldn't fit through certain doors in the county and stuff like that. And so I would love to continue talking about that.
That's where they're saving on the budget.
Courtney, is that something to put on the agenda? We might be too full for next agenda, but
I got it down to add for next month's agenda.
Okay, you're all over it, of course.
Yeah.
So thank you for agreeing to maybe be the primary person on Vision Zero.
Yeah, no problem.
And special grant use, that's Doris, and so, and I'm glad I had the chance to talk about the Marcus Alert, because this is really good information, and also I can share with you the next time they meet. I will say there are several consumers on the call that have raised that exact issue of, I never knew about any of these programs. And, but I have to say that part of the reason that they're doing 988 is because police officers right now, they showed a percentage. They had really excellent charts and graphs, but they showed the percentage of police responses that have to do with mental health issues like homelessness, and it was a very high percentage. Interestingly enough, they also showed that a lot of them were from out of county. But either way, the police want to not have to be involved in the mental health business.
I mean, most of our active staff is spending their time at BHC doing the hold watches, because Department of Human Services that oversees like the calm down units, or the mental health observation units, they don't have enough staff. Now, of course, the police force has X amount of authorized force, and a large percentage of that is currently empty. So maybe the county can work with the chief of police to spare 2 authorized force and move that over to Department of Human Services.
Yeah, well, that's one of the hopes for this committee is that it will dictate funding. But right now, at least from what they've said, they're so short on mental health professionals, and they're recruiting and can't get any. They've actually gone to asking retired county people to come back because they're so desperate.
Yeah, I know
It's
that's,
taken a long time also to get mental health into this.
yeah.
I one of the first mental health parity acts, former Senator Paul Wellstone, so him and his,
I love Wells. I mean,
him and his wife, were actually Arlington, they met in Arlington.
Oh, really?
Yes, they were high school sweethearts, and they were families, they were friends of my parents.
Wow.
And
he was the original sponsor of the Mental Health Parity Act?
I'm still in contact with his son.
Wow.
That's something
So
that
sad.
seeing, yes.
Yeah, and I will say that the governor, in his budget, he has this, part of it is called Right Help Right Now, that plans to invest $50 million into mental health resources.
Yeah, I'm just
But
curious
that
to
doesn't
see into
necessarily
detail what
Yeah.
that means,
That
Yeah,
because
Because usually to state, they're gonna take the easiest route. And the
Yeah.
easiest route is to open up institutional beds. I mean, before you know it, it's
Yeah.
gonna be doing what New York did, which is saying homeless persons should automatically be placed in institutions. And,
yeah,
you know, that's not necessarily what we want.
yeah. Most of it was infrastructure investments, like the mobile response units, but a big issue was staffing, you know.
what is your thought on those mobile units though?
I mean, they will definitely, I think they will definitely help on police interactions. Of course, the training is going to take a while to get right. But my issue is if you have these mobile units and you bring someone to a unit, are they going to a unit that can actually support them? Or are they going to be, you know, chained
That's
to
why
a hospital
they
bed?
bring them there, but then they immediately bring them to somewhere else.
Yeah,
It's
because
kind of a fallacy
Yeah.
in my mind.
Because I know Arlington's working on a regional center, but the current way they're doing it is that they're taking people to Virginia Hospital Center and they're on hold until an available bed. So, and you know, a lot of people quote this number that, you know, we need more beds, we need more beds. You know, there was a statistic quoted by Senator Favola, and she summarized it to be is like, we have the physical infrastructure. The issue is the human infrastructure.
Right.
And most of that is investment in education and also, you know, putting us in regional compacts where we can accept license from other states.
Right. So you should be on this committee as well, because that is the kind of things that get discussed. How do we encourage more mental health professionals? And it's like have certification programs for people so they can do this. So anyway, I'm really glad I had a chance to talk about it, and I can share with the committee, if you like, the handouts, materials. A lot of it is just fancy charts and graphs describing what we have, but there's also an email that anybody, they don't have to be on this committee, but anybody can send. It's called marcusalert.com or marcusalert.arlington or something like that.
Yeah.
I mean, I can send that. And anybody can make a comment about how they think that services can be improved. But the bottom line is the county is seeking grants to be able to get funding for some more of these services. Because even though we're a small county, we get a lot of people from DC and the surrounding counties. And so that really makes it hard on escalates their budget.
Yeah, I wonder if there's a regional coordinating committee on the metropolitan government. That's a question for the board.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah.
So we're right at 9:00, 6 minutes before 9. Does anyone have any last minute thoughts that they want to express? I'm
I'm really sorry, my
Oh, you don't have to tell us why you're out.
college
You have some-
freshman just arrived on their roommate is dropped out of college, and so now they're in a room by themselves, and they're
Oh,
upset. And
I would
so-
love that.
So it's one of the things where, like, what can you do, Mom? And I'm like, I live in Virginia.
Someone who lives,
You're 19. This
Yeah.
is one of those issues.
Yeah,
You
as
go
someone
to
who-
your
All housing services.
Yeah.
I have to.
as someone who worked at a college, who works at a college, just tell them, it's like, your RA is paid for this. So go knock on the door, not tonight, but, well, yeah, I don't have anything else to say, but, thank you again for your service, and
Yes.
hopefully we can fix that pesky law and
Yeah.
have you back in the future if you're
Yeah.
willing.
Okay, great. And just to review, I'll work on the housing letter and we'll attend the thing on Saturday, and you will work on the chirp letter,
Yes.
the I hate chirp letter.
The IH, that'll be the subject. I make a motion to adjourn.
I will second it. I believe my ride just arrived.
Excellent. Yep. All right. Thank you, Leroy, for that public comment. Come back again.
Do that.